Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think we can get started. Welcome, I hope you enjoyed the month. Okay, Daphna, our guest speaker, Horowitz will be here later on, she's on her way. But we're going to start off with Samuel Amoa. Now, Samuel is one of our PhD students. He's been in the system now. His two supervisors not here. The one is in Australia, and the other one is sitting at the coast watching the dolphins. So he's got an interesting journey of how he's going to make it work, Samuel. But from the Institute side, we obviously want to support you and see how it's going. So today, Samuel is very much involved in the transport sector. And as you could see that his topic is about the role of public transport versus social exclusion, a case study of South Africa. Now I want you to know he's doing a PhD. So you can already decide, you know, where does he pitch this PhD? You know what I mean, Sophie? We can talk about that. But what we want to give him the opportunity, Samuel, and to say welcome here is, we almost want to facilitate today's conversation with Samuel around specific topics. Because I think in my discussion and briefing with Samuel, I almost sense that there are some topics part of the thesis which you need to want to discuss about. And I really want you to use the opportunity to link, to ask, to probe, just probe them. Don't wait because they won't answer themselves. But they are bright. Everybody around here is very bright. So just keep asking, because we want you to leave with a sense that you feel more anchored in your research. All right. But the focus is around transport versus social exclusion. Now, I almost want to start off before Samuel starts and say, Sophie, what do you hear? Public transport versus social exclusion. What does your brain hear? Because I want Samuel to sense what is he saying.
I hear something to the effect that there is some correlation between transport system and the social position of people.
Good.
That's what I hear.
And you like the idea that he puts it in an open sense. He doesn't say it's right or wrong. He almost teases your mind and he just puts up these two ideas.
That's right.
Okay. Sam, what do you hear? What does your brain hear?
Public transport is a public good that is meant to serve the society. But in providing a service to the society, there are chances that you're going to exclude certain communities depending on the way you actually come up.
Okay, so you add another dimension to public transport, public good. Yusuf, what do you hear?
What I got out of it was also when he said that public transport and social exclusion was that public transport is meant for like a different category of society. Like the higher to medium income, where as opposed to excluding the lower income.
So you see an economic ranking in it.
Yeah.
Now isn't that beautiful how our brains see this? Charles, what do you hear?
Almost what he said. In terms of advantage and disadvantage by using public transport. Because I see sometimes in off-job offer, the condition is to have your own transport. If you don't have it, automatically you're excluded to get the job, whatever qualified or not.
So Samuel, that by way of introduction, it's a loaded topic. So tell us a little bit more from where you come from. I almost want to start before you interpret that. But that's just to let you know how does all these brains watch you, from different angles. Yeah. Tell us a little bit more of your ontological departure. Where does this man come from? Who is he?
Okay.
That he puts up this statement.
Okay. Well, I'm Samuel Amoa. I am from Ghana, if that's for origin in terms of geography, but then I've been in the Southern Africa for the past 15 years. thereabout.
Can you just speak up a little bit, Samuel?
Yeah. The past 15 years I've been in the Southern Africa. I've worked in Botswana, in Zambia, and now in South Africa. But I've been I'm a civil engineer by profession and a project manager as well. I did my project management in Cape Town between the 1999s and 2000. So I've been in the space of engineering, project management, civil engineering, being specific discipline of my study. And that leads me to be more of a rational thinking person. I always want to see things be more logical in terms of the way.
Okay, so you're saying because of your education pathway, you became a more rational being. And if you didn't do engineering, you would have maybe been different.
I think so, I'm not sure.
That's interesting. What do you make of that, Emeka?
I think he has an impression that engineering has foisted on his mind a particular thinking process.
And he almost hangs on to it.
Yes, he's holding on.
He's almost telling you as the audience, remember, I'm a rational now.
Yes, yes.
Don't come with all this esoteric stuff. I'm an engineer, I'm being rational. Samuel, that's what you're announcing.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So you want to approach your studies similarly?
Yes.
All right.
And I see, and with that, it takes me into the space of this systems thinking, where I know everything works in that format where our environment, people, and all that we do is a cause and effect situation where you it's not, you always have to think that way. Say once you do something, it affects something, and for that matter, you have to always try to look out to see whatever you're doing, what is the cause and what effect is it going to bring in the system. So that's the way I see things.
Okay.
In the space, going back to what I said as an engineering focused person, that's how I see things.
Good.
That's the way I'm approaching what I'm trying to do.
And that's what grounds you.
That's right.
Okay, from an epistemological point of view, how do you look at the world?
Well, I will still go back to my engineering and say it's science. And with that, because I'm a science person, I see that I need to always let my impression be problem-solving approach. When I meet something, I shouldn't shy away from, and see if I can apply my scientific knowledge to see how I can solve a problem. And I don't look at things only, my engineering only as whatever, but then looking at the environment and people as being part of whatever problem that you have. Economic-wise, like some colleagues were picking up, say you are affected by the environment socially, economically, and yeah, I think I'll just put those two as one of the main things that affect me in my thinking, in my approach to the world.
So I think that sets a bit of the scene of how we look at you as the researcher. All right. So what's the problem that you want to address? Or your idea? What is it about?
Okay. I think for the past 5 years, I was working with roads and transport, and that brought me face to face with the dynamics that we have in the transportation sector, and more so looking at, it was initially Gauteng as a province, but then my position gave me the opportunity to interact with national transport, with other provinces, and in most of the forums that we meet, the dynamics are the same, and it almost came to the point where you could see that transport is almost like the backbone of the economy. And looking at transport, you need to get to work through transport. You need to almost get if even looking for a job, you need to travel to find it. But we're looking at the South Africa and the way the past of South Africa and the way things were structured. It looks like there was a deliberate attempt to exclude people from the mainstream of economy. People were living outskirts, people were traveling far and all that, and trying to now change that setup. It has been, if you look at the white paper that was published in 1996, its core message was to get everybody an inclusive and integrated public transport system. But because of the structure, that deliberate attempt to keep people away, and also transport operators operated in their own way of trying to maximize profit. They used their own routes. There was no coordination. There was no integration. But then, interacting with so many documents that the National Transport has produced, the provincial authorities have produced, municipal authorities have produced, you will see that there's an attempt to try and bring integration. However, still you see people working in their own silos and they're not getting there. And it's affecting the economy, it's affecting people. And my thinking is to look at what framework that can be put in place to achieve a fully integrated, seamless public transport system. Okay. That will.
Okay. So let me interrupt for a moment. Yeah. So you want to solve a problem locally?
Locally
in South Africa.
South Africa. Yeah.
All right. So your world's a little bit small. South Africa. But then I will make references to what have happened in other developing world, other developing countries. What has happened in UK, what has happened in other places. So, Rashid, if it's possible, do you think it's possible that he may find somewhere in the world a very well integrated public transport system?
Absolutely.
So what will he then do? Will he just replicate it here?
No.
Not necessarily.
We'll have to do an adaptive analysis, and you will have to look at the ethnic, social costs.
So let me be critical. Is he solving any problem, James?
What comes to mind is, one of the biggest stimulus for growth in America was the railway system that opened up the West. And that wasn't just people, that was goods, which helped grow the infrastructure of America to become the strong economy it is today. And I think that if we had to have that view of maybe relooking at the infrastructural framework in which goods and the economy is driven, that it'll drive solutions towards moving commuters who need to move along those lines as well.
But I want to tease you with the idea. Is anybody interested why transport is not working in South Africa? Why it's not integrated? Are people interested in it?
Absolutely. It's a thing that affects everybody every time they get out into the roads. I mean, taxis have a rule unto themselves. They are private because they're part of, they're not state-owned, so that's not public transport owned by the state. And there's probably a fear factor that people want to support the local taxis and not go onto state transport systems. The taxis have their inherent problems due to pressure they put onto the owners put onto the taxi drivers who have to reach certain targets every day. So therefore they cut corners, they don't maintain the vehicles, etc., etc. And I think that
Sam?
Thanks for asking that question. I think the bigger problem is mobility than really transport. I think people wake up in the morning, they want to be connected with whatever they want to do, and whatever it takes for them to be connected, and whatever transport that's available to use, whether it's integrated or not, that's a second.
And I think that's an important comment that I want you to, Sam, for your sake, to think around the debate, because you could easily solve a problem which becomes a project. But you're busy writing a thesis. And you must therefore be clear, is transport the problem? Or is mobility the problem? Or is connectivity the problem? What is the real problem that sits behind the almost too obvious, there's not a transport system? What sits behind it? Because you started the debate in saying the previous government deliberately didn't want people to what?
To
be integrated.
There was exclusion in a way,
Yeah.
which has created spatial development as well, where there's no densification, land use has not been properly looked at. It's also one of the dynamics. But then that has created congestion in a way as well, in terms of our roads, our infrastructure, which is weighing heavily on the time people spend on the roads work, the amount of money they spend for the taxi to go to work, and then basically those, and then even the family time that you need to get. People wake up early by 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock to try and get to where they are supposed to work, and all these things are issues that affect people.
Now, why I want to keep having this debate, remember what he said ontologically, where he comes from and how he looks at the world. He, as the researcher, Sophie, he's not interested in understanding the high conceptual issues. It doesn't interest him. He said, he wants to know what's the cause and what's the effect. So we'll have to make room for him in his thesis that he's going to take that approach, Emeka. So when Sam says, well, what about mobility? I wonder what's the response in your mind to his comment. That the issue is not transport, the issue is mobility.
Well, if he talks about mobility, maybe what comes into my mind is what I said about seamless public transport system. In that sphere, you're looking at where someone can get out from his home. It doesn't necessarily need to be in a public transport, or he could even drive a smaller car, get to a point, join public transport, or even with a bicycle, which is safe, and get to a point, join, or even a one-ticket system, which allows someone to connect from one public transport to another, depending on the modes, bringing the modes together. We're talking about modes, you're talking about non-motorized transport. We're talking about walking, we're talking about all the other modes.
When you think of the public transport system, will you think of all those dimensions?
Exactly. You're looking at all the modes that comes into play.
Does that change it a bit for you?
The start was very good, and the point raised was the transport is the backbone of the economy. Which means that the transport really is not the end, it's really a means to the end. And people have to be together to be able to trade. And so we could solve the problem, we have already issues where we don't have space to build these various transport modes and bring them together. And there's congestion in the cities, it's a bigger problem. The result of transport that exists but is poorly planned. There's no facility for it. So myself, as the moment I stop being employed and become self-employed, I want to be connected with people. So people don't have to come and meet with me. I can connect with people through whatever other means.
I don't need transport.
Why do I travel?
I need a different transport.
I need different type of a transport. And if I am sitting on the transport, if I happen to find myself physically sitting in a train, I need to be able to be in a train that allows me to still be connected with the people. So if that transport is just moving me from A to B, it doesn't really connect with the people.
So, thanks for that, because I think that's important what I wanted you to hear. You may solve a problem for transport, but you haven't solved the connectivity problem. Now, from a PhD level, I want you to consider all these rich dynamics so that people could say you were really ahead of your time in thinking of transport in a more elevated way or a more inclusive way than just what is the obvious. So thanks, Sam, for bringing that in.
Can I
Yes,
just say
Rocco?
something? Okay. To come back to the issue around the taxi, recapitalization project was put on the table by PTI in 1997. Between 97 and 2000, which the taxi drivers didn't buy into because the government was trying to regulate. That apparently is still in the pipeline. There's a lot of money for that that hasn't been used. Coming back to the nodes and that, PRASA is busy with a major project to do the nodes, the linkage of public transport. We need to look at that as well and see what they're doing there. And secondly, look at what the Gauteng is doing, the future project and the addition to what's currently in existence.
Rocco, if I may comment,
Yeah?
but Sam would say to you that can actually take him in the wrong direction. Because that's not the problem that needs to be solved only. If it's a connectivity problem. I mean, just to give you an idea, who launched Blue Wi-Fi? Which transport system in Gauteng had Wi-Fi first?
Gauteng.
No? Who?
The taxi industry.
The taxi industry. The taxi industry first had Wi-Fi. Jack van der Merwe was, and I can give the harsh word, he was irritated that Gauteng didn't have Wi-Fi first. The taxis had it first. They are now working on Wi-Fi. On
That's
Gauteng.
what private enterprise does.
Yeah.
That's what the
So,
customers need.
but it touches to Sam's point, Samuel, of connectivity. The taxi guys understood connectivity. So there's maybe some interesting part to look at in terms of what does connectivity means in the context of transport. Okay. So thanks for opening that debate a little bit. Any questions this far, Samuel? Does this help you?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions? Let's go further.
Can I just ask?
Yeah.
The aspect that he's obviously focusing on as well is the people that are already having an existing problem of getting around, logistics of getting to their workplace, which addresses a lot of low-income people who have to get to their work or employment. So in looking at that integrated transport system, he still has to take that into account because as much as you have connectivity, you still have people that service the economy in a different way. They need to travel into.
They need physically
those
to be
areas.
there.
So you cannot look at it independent of those others.
Samuel, do you want to respond on that?
I thought that was contribution instead of, yeah.
Because I think she confirms the notion that you're talking about the social exclusion.
Exactly.
There's a social dimension
Yeah,
that you are working on.
that's right.
But it therefore also means that you will probably have to define, because I think you raise an important thing. Connectivity means different things for different LSM levels.
That's right.
And you almost have to argue that.
That's the
Yes.
You'll have to argue that.
Yes, and in that sphere, I will be looking at transport integration in all the other spheres. It wouldn't be just public transport and I mean the what do you call it? Just the buses. I mean traveling from one point to the other. But then all other modes of transport and their hierarchy in terms of integration have to come to play. Because one way or the other, you look at taxis as people maybe might be taking taxis because they don't have choice. They don't have other choices of mobility in terms of what he's saying or transporting themselves to wherever. And other people might not be using public transport because of safety reasons. And all those dimensions come into play. So you have to look at all that to say, like he talked about congestion, which is one of the issues. Because there are too many vehicles on our roads, we need to work harder to try and maintain the infrastructure. I think if you talk about Jack's report talks about how our roads have not been maintained for years. In fact, if you look at it, for every 3 to 5 years, we need to rehabilitate about 200 kilometers of roads. But if you go back to the history, the survey that they did in terms of the road infrastructure maintenance analysis, the needs analysis shows that roads have not been maintained for years, and we're falling behind. We're falling behind in terms of maintenance, and that is one of the issues. If we are able to take more vehicles off the roads, where public transport become attractive, and connectivity and the intelligent transport system is put in place, where one ticket for a province, where you can jump into that and jump into that whilst you hold one ticket. It's one of the issues that you can bring up, that it can be put up, and then if possibly the one regulatory body is put in place, that it's for instance our situation where you have 3 major metros, and there's BRT in Johannesburg, there's BRT in Pretoria, there's one in the Ekurhuleni, and how does it integrate, and how does it help to make movement easier for everyone?
As long as you don't get trapped in a project integration, you're developing a thesis.
That's right.
That's I want to constantly make you aware of that. You may go back to the reality out there, but be careful that doesn't become the thesis. If I may,
doesn't become a project.
Yeah, you don't make the thesis a project. All right, now having said all of this, so what is the aim of this thesis?
Well,
if I may ask that.
The aim is to save, try and
to try.
Okay. Well, okay. Is to develop a framework that will be able to see that to put in place an integrated transport system that is seamless. In a case of
Carl, does that? Can you respond?
I think your question earlier, Prof, was are you trying to solve for South Africa only? I guess my question would be, if we're developing a framework, surely we should be able to replicate that anyway in the world. So maybe other countries with a similar issue, problem.
Well, I don't think I would like to do that. The reason being, South Africa's situation is unique in a way, and for that matter, I would like to restrict myself to South Africa instead of.
Okay, so let's talk to that a bit. Yes. Naresh, sorry.
Yes.
Interesting topic. The word public transport just rings in the back of my head, because I'm trying to understand why you're saying public, why not transport? Because transport is a problem. Public transport is restricted, I agree, and you're telling us what we already know.
Okay.
And go back to your first point. What is the ontological research that you're going to encounter? Who's your audience? What am I going to learn from you after you do your research? That's what I'm trying to picture. So when you say public transport, we all know the dynamics of public transport in South Africa. Government's not going to just give us money to make things happen. So the way I see it is, you're trying to solve a problem, but you have to do in-depth research. You need to unpack it.
Or deconstruct it.
And then you need to highlight the image with a target, almost like a funnel approach. So if you decide you want to do a solution, you've got to be very careful it doesn't become a project that you want to sell. You want to add to the work, let's say add to the body of knowledge. But the audience is the most important thing. Who is your audience? Is it government? Is it the private sector? Because PhD students will give you a different view. Prof, you've got to determine your audience, and you don't want a thesis that's going to be sitting in the library. You want it to add value. And so that's what I'm trying to say. Your target market, one, and the word public, it just doesn't gel well with me.
So let's try and answer him, Samuel. Can I give it a try?
Please, go.
If Samuel decided to look at the concept of transport and the connectivity that transport historically has managed, being positioned at the center of socioeconomic development, that allows people to trade and to engage. And he argued that the concepts related to that, transport in a developed economy or a developing society, you can choose that and make some argument there. And he then said, for purposes of my thesis, I'm going to apply this frame of thinking into a specific LSM level. I'm going to target LSM 1 to 3 or 7 to 8 or whatever, and see how can I take these ideas and contribute to the integration of transport into society. What will that do?
You'll narrow it down, without a doubt. You'll become more focused, but the issue of mobility, mobility is available in South Africa. The word you're looking for is efficient mobility, getting there on time, reliability. Transport is available. It's just that we encounter different modes of transport. We want to get to the airport.
Really available?
It is.
Well, that's an assumption.
No. It depends on your location and your LSM group.
Yeah.
Affordability. Just one thing. If I want to get to the airport, I'll take the car train. But if my colleagues want to get, I think they would obviously take a taxi. It's just that's the difference. So it's available, and to unpack what you said, the LSM group is vital. So mobility is there. The person in Soweto can in fact get to the airport using public transport or using private transport, meaning the taxis. So it is available. Hence the word transport, not public transport, because you can actually open a very interesting topic because a lot of people want to invest in our country, and if you sort of come up with an idea that people can grasp, good and well. You spoke about international. Every country I visit around the world, there's a traffic problem because the country's population is getting bigger and bigger. So, if you're going to benchmark, you're saying let's benchmark similar countries. Africa. In the south in Africa, we're well organized, but if you compare us to London, we're not. The transport systems, you have to park and drive, underground trains. So I think your conceptual knowledge has to be wide, but you have to bring it down to what applies to South Africa, because that's your target market. And your outcome has to be, what are you trying to achieve at the end of the day? You do all this research. Do you want to come up with a solution? Or do you want to do you want somebody else to take your research further?
And I think, Samuel, if you argued conceptually at that point, although you focused then for purpose of the research on South Africa, somebody in Malaysia and somebody in Chile can also get relevance from that research. Yes, but you grounded it conceptually. Sophie?
I see your point, but I also see his point. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, when he started, he talked about public transport versus social exclusion. And to me, it has an aspect of who is using public transport. What are the effects? He talked about cause and effect. What does the public transport have to do with the social structure? If you compare the public transport in UK, most of the people use that. Bankers use that. You would hardly ever see bankers using public transport here, unless they're using the How train now. But I think public transport in South Africa is different. If you're going to do it on a national level, international level, it's going to be different. I think you'd have to, maybe put the countries into categories, because here public transport implies a certain social level, really. And you could find out, why do people use public transport? Why do people maybe up there, why do they not use public transport? Why? It's the efficiency.
How much of that public transport makes total transport itself? Somebody said to me that South Africa has to be careful that you're going to throw away one of the best nations in the world just because you are irritated with you and you are not able to integrate it into what you refer to as transport and refer to taxis. What we call taxis, which is actually not taxis, it's minibuses. I'll explain to you, because I also expressed the way you explained it. I said, what do you mean by that? He says, You know, you had a situation that was not addressed by the public transport system in the country. So people creatively came out of a system that had no boundaries, that was flexible, that could go any directions. And people creatively actually created routes and actually designated routes that actually could coordinate mobility of people. And now, because you want to aspire to the Londons and all other public transports in the world, you say this is not what we're looking for, we must come off the public transport. So instead of really creating a solution, you're creating complexities even more. So I'm just throwing it into his,
So Samuel, they're making it more and more complicated. I love it.
Because just to round up my thought, that taxi transport doesn't belong to private transport, doesn't belong to transport.
Good, that, you got the idea, Bernard?
I was just wondering, are you aware of the work that Cromarty Airport did? Because I did quite a lot of work together with Praza.
From South Praza?
Yeah. There's also another guy, Ernest Swanepoel. Do you know Ernest? Because I mean, he's done a lot of substantive work which perhaps could be of.
So you can make that link afterwards?
Yeah.
What I wanted to say, Prof, is I think we shouldn't confuse someone. I don't know if his angle was.
That's the reason of this. We just want to confuse him.
I am
that's fine.
entirely confused.
What I wanted to say is,
Kidding, but I'm already confused.
public or is his angle transport? So that, because maybe in his mind he had this idea of public transport and how it excludes the social community or the social. So now I don't know if he wants to integrate transport as a whole and look at transport systems around the world, or he just wants to stick to public transport, whether it's transport or it's.
He doesn't need to answer that now. I think the relevance of this engagement is that the PhD candidate must become very clear and focused in what he or she wants to do. And that's why all of this input is very important. And if it creates some confusion, that's great.
It's okay.
That should happen like that. Until he is of such clearness in his mind that he just laughs at all of you and say, hello, this is what I'm going to do. But I almost sense, Samuel, that you must probably refine what is the aim and objectives. I don't think that's very well articulated. Hence the reason why you can get these different voices. Okay, do you want to comment on that?
No, I agree with you, and I will take suggestions from the room as to what people think. I think it will help.
The other piece that I'm interested in is, obviously as a PhD at Da Vinci, you have to be rigorous in your methodological grounding. So we talk about the qualitative, the quantitative, the mixed. Where's your research methodology going to take us? What are you considering?
Well, looking at the topic, I looked at the case study. But then, in terms
and how will you ground case study in terms of qualitative, quantitative?
It's my thinking was to go with qualitative because there are people involved here. There is an issue about lifestyle and people involved, and I think qualitative with bends more to where you have people in.
And you're talking about the social dynamics, so
exactly,
that makes sense.
and where you have you are able to probe in your interviews and all that, on open-ended questions where you are able to get people to really tell you what they feel.
So how can you convince us that you're going to do a case study and not a survey?
Well, I'm not going to do a survey anyway. Definitely not going to do a survey.
You're going to do a case study. What is going to make it a case study?
Well,
are you comfortable and well grounded in writing a position on what constitutes a case study as a research method?
Yeah, I am comfortable doing that. Yeah.
Because I think, like I've always said, it's important that you guys must articulate that methodology very clear. It's like an architectural blueprint. I'm going to design a house and this is how the design is intended. Once you build the house, it may look different. But you must be clear in your intention of how the house is going to look. Case study, and this is what it constitutes.
Yeah.
Maybe once you're in it, in the field, you'd say, well, this is not quite what I want to do. And then you can change it But you have to argue it back to what I
where
mentioned. Is there anybody in the room working on case study? Sorry. Anybody who worked on case study methodology? Nobody? Emeka?
Yeah.
You want to talk a bit about it?
Yeah, there's a whole lot of
You did a number of case studies.
Yeah,
Yeah?
there are a whole lot of case study methodologists. You can actually read what they have done. Okay, so there is a book on case study. You can check out Yin K, Y-I-N-K. Okay, I don't know. The guy's name is Chinese or Japanese, something like that. So you pick him up. He wrote quite a lot of case studies. Okay, he's just a case study methodologist. So that is the way you to get an understanding of how you can run a case study illustration like this.
And important when you do case study, you don't need to put all of that information in your text of the thesis. Like Emeka, he put it on as an annexure.
Yes.
So don't blur your research thesis, your argument, with all the data in that piece. You can always put that in an annexure,
Yes.
as I think you've done.
Yeah. There's one other thing I wanted to talk about here. I think it is in the part of this, I should call it a babble of opinions that is about to confuse you. You know, which is, and that's good. You need to go through that confusion so that by the time you focus, you know what it is and what it is not.
Exactly.
That is actually what makes you a philosopher. You know what the idea is and what it is not. But you need to get there. You get to, you know. So the point is, if you look at, I'm actually looking at the principal idea. You know, this is about integration. Okay, integration. If you come to a place like Auckland Park, okay, recently they began to do tuk-tuk. You know tuk-tuk?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so this bike, okay. So I'm trying to get an idea of what you mean by integration. So tuk-tuk will take you, the targeted students in UJ. Eventually, Auckland Park is made up of young middle class people, you know. So some of them drive, some don't, you know, but they are quite mobile. So they brought in this tuk-tuk. Tuk-tuk will take you from either the university or from the shopping center and drop you at the doorstep of your house. Okay. That never existed because no bus or minibus actually took people to the doorstep of the house. So it's also possible for you to come out of your house and you see the tuk-tuk driving and you stop him and enter. And you take you to the main road, you stop there, take minibus or whatever, and get to Houtren, and enter into Houtren, get to Pretoria. Exactly. And probably get to, say, airport. And you take the kite, the aeroplane, and fly to Johannesburg, Cape Town. Cape Town. And you probably start from Cape Town there, get into Cape Point, and enter into a boat, takes you to Cape Agulhas. Okay, and you don't do that thing back again. That is integration, right? That's right. Unless I got it wrong.
Oh, no,
Is it what you think? Okay. Now, so you're going to, these are different modes of transportation. And that probably, somebody like me could afford this connectivity now I've just mentioned. Very few people can, actually. Okay, I could take it wherever I get this one, get to come back again. Some people can also. The mode of transportation you're talking about now, you're talking about different modes of transportation being integrated. You're talking about a particular mode of transportation being integrated.
Different modes of transportation being integrated because if you look at it, most of our infrastructure don't have even bicycle lanes, but gradually some of the authorities are beginning to encourage that, they're beginning to infuse that into their designs of rehabilitating new roads and putting bicycle lanes where someone or people who can use bicycles will be able to use the infrastructure instead of jumping into a bus, a taxi or whatever, like you're saying. And if the integration works well, there is a place where you can dump your bicycle where you don't need to go far. You are going further than where you can. Dump your bicycle somewhere. It's safe, kept somewhere. You join another mode, go to where you are going. You come back, take your bicycle and continue where it's safe to ride a bicycle and go back. So it's not only one mode.
Yes.
It's all the modes integrated. And that's where what the point he made comes to me as a good point to say rather look at transport than say public transport.
You actually answered the question.
So in the midst of the confusion, it's becoming clearer.
All right. I hope this helps you a bit.
Yes, yes.
I think your aim, your objective, your research methodology, I think if you get those things clearer, work with some of the people that can link you to others. But I do appreciate that we made the comment, don't solve a problem that may not need to be solved because other things have developed. So I will agree to what somebody said, yet don't let's just focus on the transport issue, because there may be an era post-transport. You know, it reminds me, I mentioned it before, Singapore is currently working on a carless society. By 2050, they don't want any cars in Singapore. Now, what is you know, that's an example of how drastically the transport system is going to change. Because they don't want cars on the road.
But then it means you're drifting into public transport.
Well,
in a way.
Is it public?
Yes.
Okay.
You're drifting into public transport.
Well, it could be public, but it's not necessarily public.
Yes.
See, we must clarify what is public and what is not.
Okay.
Because the minibus in South Africa is not public nor private. Well, it's private, it's not public.
Yeah.
But yet it operates almost in the public
In the
space.
public domain, yeah, in the public space.
So is it about mass transport or mass transport? With your mass transport, okay. So that is where the point is actually going down to, is it mass transport?
Well, that is if he clarifies his LSM levels, his socioeconomic, because you've got a social dimension in this. So he has to bring that into the argument somewhere. And so I want to look at socioeconomic integration at the lower levels. Then you can go mass.
Yes.
Yeah. But the example that you referred to now, you know, the round trip, that's not for mass. That's a different LSM level.
Yeah.
But then anybody can use that information who wants to work in that LSM level, irrespective of whether they're in South Africa or not. Okay. Any last comments, Sophie? Tuyin? Nothing? Werner?
I just think a connection, I need to speak to you about Crommett and Ernest.
Okay.
Carl, any comment? John, welcome. Any comment?
Good luck with the case study.
Burrow, any last comment?
Just a couple of comments. First of all, I think that the great value of your thesis, I think it's going to be on the fact that hopefully it's going to be completely independent, because I surmise that some of the reports that have been done, whether it's on the Gautrain or on Plaza, they probably had a kind of parochial kind of approach, possibly. So this would be very valuable to actually have an independent and comprehensive analysis of the process. Second point I would like to make is that taxis are privately offered as a public transport. So it is public transport, but not publicly owned, if one can put it that way. And finally, I just want to say, coming back to the independence, I will be very careful, contrary to what Naresh was suggesting, that you must be clear on what your objective is, but I don't think it should be aimed at any particular target market like government or whatever. Maybe it should be, do I want to create this body of knowledge so that somebody can then take it any further, or should it be in order to influence policy? Not necessarily government, but policy, as opposed to further research.
Almost an advocating or lobbying.
An advocacy
approach
or a policy,
or contribution. That's, I think that's valuable, Maria.
Purely theoretical, academic, I mean,
that's
you
valuable.
can do either of those, but you must be clear on what you want to achieve.
Will become a building block towards something maybe in future.
Exactly.
Simon, last comment?
Just my comment is just I was surprised by the choice of your methodological approach in terms of taking the qualitative and case study as opposed to what you told us actually is in terms of your ontological grounding as a rational. And I'm just wondering how those two do to you in the journey.
I think that's well spotted. You can make a good argument in your thesis. how you're going to bridge that rational gap to the qualitative, as opposed to rather the quantitative. But that's your journey that you will explain. But Simon is saying important thing.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Samuel, thanks. Any last comment from your side?
Just that I will appeal to everybody around, if there is valuable information that you can pass on to me. Okay. And I will say it shouldn't stop here.
Well, you can talk to them after this
yes.
and keep talking to them.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot, Samuel. I appreciate it.